All right, what's up, everybody? We are live Friday. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm guessing that the Wi-Fi is acting up a little bit because I can't really hear you too well. Trying to figure all this out, but we're doing okay. It's Friday in New York. Got some fun plans. I'm gonna be at the Nets game tomorrow, and then I might be going to the Knicks game on Sunday. So it's gonna be a very fun weekend for me of basketball. I think we've all sort of been waiting for this for a while. It's going to be really nice to be back in the Garden, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be fun for you. 2 playoff games in the same weekend.
Back to back.
Playoff basketball. That's one thing I've never gotten to experience, really. I've been to a couple, but not like I had a little time in Indiana, a little time in South Florida at Heat games, but overall, no NBA team here in Nashville, never one in Kansas City growing up. I mean, I went down to a Spurs game a time or two in San Antonio, but never playoff basketball, which is definitely a different breed of basketball. So a little there.
I've been to a couple. Before, but this is like the first year where I've just been having like a great year, and I can like treat myself, and I've been like winning a lot of bets, and it's just like, all right, let's go have a nice time, let's go enjoy the game. Going with a buddy, and then my girlfriend and I are going to the Knicks game. So it'll be a great time. I'm very excited. She might be a bigger Knicks fan than I am. So in case you're wondering how I pick my partners. So, but anyway, hopefully everyone's doing well today. We got night baseball today. We already have Mike complaining that there's nothing during the day. What are you looking at today, Mike? What are you liking?
Yeah, I had a couple plays on the early edge this morning. I think that it's obviously one we're going to talk about here. Very interesting market dynamics on the White Sox New York Yankees game. We can go ahead and start there if you want to, since that's my first play. Minus 105 on both sides. Has not moved off of that number at all. 70% of the bets, 70% of the money on the White Sox, and the line still has not moved at all. It has come down from 9 to 8.5, almost at 8 in a few spots. So you're laying minus 118 on FanDuel to get under 8.5 right now. So I think that might flip to a total of 8 today. But obviously the most interesting part is the fact that it hasn't really moved, right? 70% of the action on this White Sox team against left-handed pitching. What do you make of that, other than the Yankees appear to be a sharp side?
I think that I agree with you. I got this at even money this morning for the White Sox. I was kind of shocked at my local book, which means they were trying to get money on the White Sox, which just surprises me, especially since we're seeing so much money on them and so little movement in the market. We call the show Market Movers, but we're going to talk about things that we feel maybe should be moving the market and don't, just the same way we feel that maybe things shouldn't and do. So yeah, really finding this one interesting. This has that feeling where where you sit and look at a game like, oh yeah, White Sox, easy. Those are the games where the Yankees come and do it and you feel like really upset because things didn't go the way that you thought and maybe the way you want all at once. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to fade the White Sox against Jordan Montgomery with the short porch, man. I just, come on. It could be a long day for the Yankees, and they're playing Carlos Rodon. So it's not like their opposing pitcher has a high ERA. It's Carlos Rodon. So I don't get it. I hopefully we're correct, but I don't get it.
Yeah, frankly, I was shocked that I had a play on it. I could not believe the market didn't open minus 120 for the White Sox. I have them 54% of Sims, minus 117. I think that's an incredibly reasonable number. I love the model there. Honestly, gut reaction, you look at that game ahead of time with no lines posted. You're like, okay, White Sox are probably going to be minus 130 tomorrow. Model's going to tell me they're minus 117, minus 118. Not going to have any sort of edge, not going to be able to play the game. So I was absolutely stunned to see this one minus 105 on both sides, especially with Abreu potentially back. Kind of it's a travel spot for the White Sox. It is a road start for Rodon, but I feel very comfortable, and I'm happy that my model says minus 117 and I'm still able to play it.
I mean, here's some crazy stats on the White Sox. So the team is the best in the AL, right? 26-16. They're 12-8 on the road. They've played 6 doubleheaders already. They're actually 5-1 in them, so they're a little worse in these full inning games. I think it is something that you need to take into account a little bit, maybe too much. They've blown teams out by 5 or plus runs 11 times this year. They have only been blown out twice. They're 9-1 versus left-handed pitchers and 17-14 versus right-handed pitchers. So again, this is just sort of, I have this play up on Sportsline too. I had a play on it. I took the line last night and I actually could have waited, which is funny because that's not how we expected it to be. I'll happily take that small L, but man, this is just an auto play against the lefty for me until shown otherwise. Like, they are raking. So let's go. They're 12-5 in the month of May. Have the defending MVP. He might play, he might not. It's going to be an interesting one today.
Yeah, last note on it. Just want to talk about how much better they've been than the rest of the league against left-handed pitching. The weighted runs created, 142. The next best is 127. Weighted on base average, 372. The next best is 347. Just massive, massive left-handed pitching numbers. Obviously, they should regress just a touch. Would be pretty incredible for a team to hit that well against lefties all season. But yeah, love it. Ready to move on to the next game. This Red Sox-Phillies game is incredibly interesting to me. I think that the market is, well, I don't think, I see it. The market is already moving in the direction that I was anticipating it based off the weather conditions. It's come up from 8 to 8.5 on this total. I think it should be closer to 8.5 to 9. Did not play it early this morning. Always a little shy with an ace on the mound like Nola. A little travel spot for the Red Sox. They're also losing their designated hitter, which could be something to factor here in this point. But do you have any thoughts on this game at all, whether it's total aside?
I think that for me, what I see again, I'm with you sort of on seeing Nola pitching there. The lines opened at plus 150 or so. We have like plus 135 right now in the consensus lines. I think Boston is probably looking like the sharp side just based off of where the money is falling. But there's a lot of money on the Phillies. That looks like to be the side that the money is on, but like there's some big bets, some sharp bets on Boston. If I had to play this one, I'm probably leaning towards the Phillies. Nola is kind of scary to me. He's a good pitcher. So I think that he probably has a show tonight and gives us what we're expecting. It looks like people are also playing the under, which I tend to agree with. I don't really see this one scoring over 9 runs or even getting to 9 runs, but I don't have a play on this one. I'm not really touching it. If I really had to, I wouldn't hate taking Boston plus 1.5 on the positive run line, because again, that covers that 1-run game opportunity or result in either way.
Yeah. Real quickly on the weather. So I liked the over at 8 quite a bit. So a lot of the weather stuff that I use, the VMI is not going to tell you that it's super great. However, the hitting environment in this ballpark really changes when the temperature starts to rise. And we've seen that here. So I mentioned Kevin Roth yesterday. Shout out to him on Twitter. You can search for him there. I believe it's at Kevin Roth WX, I believe is his Twitter handle, but you guys can find him there if you haven't already. He built something with Roto Grinders, again, that I talked about yesterday, the Weather Edge. We have 135 game sample size that this one is being compared to is profiled to as a similar game. And in this game tonight at Philly, we're looking at a 29.7% increase in home runs, 20% increase in total runs, 22% increase in pitcher ERA. Again, on 135 game sample size that it's been profiled to. So some of those numbers line up with some of the numbers that I'm looking at, some of our more like raw actual weather data. And I liked it at 8. The market's moved it to 8.5. I think 8.7 is where the median number is for me. Probably should have played it at 8 this morning, but I missed it. But that's where I'm at on this one. I'm not taking a side on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think, again, the only thing that might come up for me is I think Boston plus 1.5 could maybe make the donkey of the day parlay if I really wanted it to. Speaking of very quickly, Speaking of very quickly, we lost that on I guess we get to call the Braves our donkey, right? Braves blew it last night. We're the last leg. We had 3 of 4 hit. So to anyone who took that, I mean, this is kind of what I'm expecting to sit up here and tell you. And I know, Mike, I think Schwarber and Bell went yard in the first, and then you didn't get one from Turner or Soto, right?
Correct. Yep.
So it's kind of how the cookie crumbles. But speaking of those guys, Washington is at home. Steven Strasburg is pitching. Baltimore is up, and it looks like there has been a little bit of buying towards Baltimore. I'm seeing that it is the sharp side and that there's some decent money on it. What do you make of that one this morning, Mike?
I think that it makes a little bit of sense. Lopez has not been as bad as we think. Gets to move to the National League. Pretty decent bump to someone like him to not have to face a designated hitter, especially when, that division that he typically is pitching in, the AL East. So that is a meaningful bump. I think it's probably all related to Steven Strasburg. Would have to see what kind of pitch limit he's potentially going to be on here. He hasn't pitched in a while. So it's that. And, the fact that the Nationals are traveling back home after the Chicago series where they had, different weather and hitting conditions overall. So I think that's why you're seeing it. I think the minus 200 was a little extreme, giving the unknown that we have with Steven Strasburg at this point.
Yep. I totally agree. If he doesn't feel like he's been in the game a lot the last couple of years, we're hoping he returns to that 2019 form. He hasn't pitched. I think he has 4 starts in the last 2 years or something crazy like that. So, there's no sample size on him. You're basically, if you're going to take the Nats today at minus 200, you're really playing on that name brand factor and expecting a guy who, again, could pitch 4 innings and 80 throws. Like, he could just get pulled. And he had a 6.3 ERA before he hit the DL this year. So, again, I think if you want to play this game, it's an interesting place to take the Orioles. I'd be weary. It's definitely a pass for me because we do know that favored teams have been very strong on Fridays, that the home team too usually tries to come out and win this first game. So it's a pass for me. I'm definitely a little scared there, but I have decent confidence, more confidence than this line implies that we might be here. Well, we won't be here tomorrow. We'll be here Sunday, but we'll be here on Sunday telling how the Baltimore managed to win that game. But let's leave it alone. Mets, Miami. I don't think either of us is really playing this one tonight. We have Stroman on the mound, but we have seen some major movement. What do you make of this?
I mean, I think it has to be a pitching change, right? There had to have been a Marlins pitching change for that to something, right?
I'm looking right now.
The way that we're looking at a 50-cent movement, there had to have been a pitching change.
Well, I think it's more, there might have been, but also it might have just been beaten down from a mispricing on the open, because I'm seeing that it opened at like minus 150, but like it actually opened around minus 125. Like you didn't really have time to buy it at 150. So it wasn't as much of maybe a change as much as a mispriced line that was hammered on the overnight. Maybe a different injury came out. I'm looking at the injury news now for the game. But it's not actually 40 cents. It's probably close to like 20 cents. Nothing too crazy with injuries. Taiwan Walker's hurt, but I don't think he was anything involved with this.
Pete Alonso's questionable. That's probably the big key for the Mets.
I'm not touching this. There's nothing indicating on this that you'd take anything here. This game has a lot of variance coming its way. Like this could go any which way. I have no idea where this one was going to go. But all right, so nothing really there. We get to the Twins and the Indians. A little bit of movement towards the Indians, which I thought was expected. What do you make of that one?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely expected. I think it's still kind of like that last game in the sense that it's still a very high variance spot. A lot of that's going to be due to Tristan McKenzie. Talked about it on the early edge this morning, but he is the definition of strikeout or home run. He's giving up a ton of home runs, but his strikeout rate, he's literally striking out 13 per 9 innings. And that's against both left and right-handed hitters. He's just absolute K machine. All of the upside in the world if he can continue to have his command, throughout the course of a game. But I think the reason why we're going to see market movement here on this one is just Polanco and Cruz are both questionable for the Twins. Travel spot for them. Kind of a rough start, rough time for the Twins right now overall. So I think that he's getting this lineup without Buxton, potentially without Cruz or Polanco or both of them. It's just a great spot for him. Minus 121 is where I played it. I make it minus 133 in the simulations, about 57%. So that's where I'm at on it. I think that it's a pretty sharp play. I think the market has it tagged as a sharp play as well. Just going to be a matter of what happens on the injury news. Yeah,
exactly. I agree. I'm actually with you. I played this one too. It is up on Sportsline. I loved it when I saw it. I'm a big believer in, fading teams that aren't living up to it, like their expectations. And I do believe the Twins are one of those. I talked a little bit about the travel factor in my write-up today. The Twins have just played a doubleheader in LA. They literally flew there. They played a doubleheader. Had just been in Minnesota. They flew to LA, played a doubleheader, split the games, and then are flying right to Cleveland tonight to play again. So, I'm on the Indians too. So, usually when you and I are in agreement, it has gone well for the times that we've done it. It doesn't happen actually that much. But I do know that usually when you and I have a play up together, it's pretty solid because we have independent approaches, right? So definitely going to be on the Indians money line. If you can still get it at minus 121, that's nice. It's definitely going to keep shifting towards the Indians as we continue to talk about it and more people continue to talk about it. I don't think Randy Dobnak is really going to be the guy who shuts the Indians down if he doesn't have the Twins bats behind him.
Yep.
All right, on to our yesterday's donkey. I almost said the Falcons. I'm ready for football, Mike. The Braves are playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. This one really hasn't moved much. Why you like anything here? It looks like the sharp side's the over and the Pirates again, but I'm not really liking either.
Yeah, I'm showing a little movement towards the Braves, actually, about 10 to 12 cents to the Atlanta side in this one. About if you trust any of the money indicators, almost 90% of the money is on the Braves. That's a little crazy, but I don't have any interest in playing it at this point. It'll be a wait and see. I think that if you want to blindly continue to play the large underdogs in this spot, I don't think it's the worst idea fading this team at home. But the Braves, I've said it many, many times, they should be better than they have been against left-handed pitching. At some point, they're going to have that 10-run game that really brings them from the bottom to the middle of the pack. Obviously, the further we get into the season, the less of the impact on the overall numbers that one game's going to have. But they're going to have a game where they just absolutely crush against left-handed pitching. It could be this one against Tyler Anderson, but Acuna, Ozuna, Albies, Austin Riley, Swanson, Contreras, they all should hit left-handed pitching at an above-average clip. So,
right.
I think the market's still trying to bet on that, but
it's such an interesting conundrum for the Braves. I think the whole NL East is sitting there, fighting the ghosts of their former selves, right? You have the Phillies, you have the Braves, you have Atlanta, you have the Nationals, even the Marlins. These are all better teams than they were 5 years ago by a long shot. Maybe not the Phillies, but they're all very competitive. They all should be vying for this division, and one of them is going to figure it out soon. And the pressure is building for all of them. Mets have a lot of untapped potential. They're super hurt right now. Miami's probably going to struggle a little because they're young, but between the Phillies, the Nationals, and the Braves, one of these teams has got to wake up and start to make an actual run at this division eventually. So I think it's more likely than not going to be all of them at once. That's kind of how this thing goes. Everyone's going to start to get hot, and the runs are going to start to pour in from everywhere. But yeah, I understand the Atlanta play. I think that's another one that probably goes in the donkey of the day parlay because they're very, very heavily favored. But we'll get to that towards the end of the show.
Yep. We're going to move to Milwaukee at Cincinnati. I think this one is very interesting. I was close to playing the Milwaukee Brewers in this one. They are pretty healthy at this point. They've got Wong, Kane, Yelich all in the lineup. Vogelbach's in there. Like, everyone is healthy for them. Facing Jeff Hoffman, nice spot for them. Cincinnati is most definitely not healthy. Senzel is also on the injury report. Listed questionable today, but they're still without Votto, Moustakas. Hoffman has not been good. 371 expected weighted on base average for him still. I think this is a decent spot for the Brewers. I don't have a massive model edge on it, but a team that I would have some interest in stacking in daily fantasy, and another one of those that I've said many times, like, it will not shock me at all if this team scores 5 runs in the first inning, like, at all.
Yep. So. I'm going to have a hard time betting on either, but I do think it is the Brewers if you have to take it. And I would probably go as far to say as I would probably try to play this on the run line just because of how bad Cincinnati is struggling. They've won a single game recently. They beat the Rockies when they were leaving Coors, and like that's something that should have been happening, right? So they really haven't produced since they got home. I'm not sure if it's the rust from being up in the mountains, and they'll start to figure it out. I mean, I've talked about that a lot. It's just, I've literally been talking about the Rocky Mountain come down a little bit, and the Reds have been exactly that. They've put up 9 runs in their last 4 games, but you also need to attribute that to the Giants pitching staff, which again showed how dominant they were in this series. So, I'm a little bit confounded. It was a pass. Again, I think if you really wanted to play it, you'd take Milwaukee on the money line, and if you felt really confident, you could even maybe take them on the run line in a parlay if you wanted some nicer odds. But I think minus 125 or so is fine. Probably goes over though. It is Coors. I mean, it is. It's not Coors. It's basically Coors. It's Great American Ballpark. But we'll see.
Yep, I have those same thoughts too. Basically, as I mentioned, I also do like the run line play coming back at plus 130 currently. I think that's a fine way to go and not even lay the 120. So
don't need to if you trust how bad. I think Reds are 1-9 in their last 10 on the run line, so definitely not playing the Reds run line that's for sure. Yeah. But all right, next game,
Rays Blue Jays. Seen a little movement here. Yeah. Glass now, heartbreaker for the Blue Jays last night. Was probably going to be a heartbreaker either way, just with how many runs each team scored. And the game was so close to even money. I fortunately had Boston plus 120. Was going to be pretty tilting if your plus 120 team puts up 5+ runs and doesn't get it done for you. That's never a fun situation. So fortunately we got that one, but we've seen some movement here, about 12 cents on the Rays. I mean, I think it makes sense, right? Glass now is an ace. The Rays have had guys that can hit left-handed pitching relatively well. Anthony Kay, don't have a lot of data on him. And then you obviously have some injury concerns for the Blue Jays. So to me, this one makes sense. I don't have the edge to play it, but it does make sense.
Rays are on fire, right? When's the last time the Rays lost? Was it the 12th of May to the Yankees? They beat the Yankees. They swept the Mets, then they swept the Orioles. Yep. So they have won 7 in a row. Their last loss was a 1-0 loss to the Yankees. Man, they're figuring it out, man. And today is not going to be the day to doubt them. So this probably is another potential, donkey of the day parlay. You really expect Tampa Bay to win this one. Who is Anthony Kay with a 7.24 ERA, 0-2, facing this Glass now guy that no one's heard of, right? Now, obviously, you're probably taking the heavy favorite here, but it wasn't a play for me. I think 9 was a little scary to see as a total with Glass now going. That really indicates to me that they think that there could be some late game antics with the bullpens allowing runs at this spring training park. So I'm leaving it alone.
Yep, no play for me. Good candidate for the donkey parlay of the day, but not something I'm overly excited about playing.
Yeah. All right, so Houston and Texas, we got a little in-state battle.
Yeah, that one
nothing too crazy.
I find this one interesting. Just a tiny bit of buyback towards the Rangers side. Despite the fact that the about 50 to 60%, 55, 60% of the action is going to be coming in on the Astros right now. I think a lot of it is just we don't know a ton about Tyler Ivey pitching for the Houston Astros here. I expect that they will try to open the roof today. Very humid day. Overcast a little bit, but I don't think there's really any legitimate threat for rain. So opening the roof at Texas is a pretty big deal, especially for the Astros. I believe I haven't even looked. They should have a great VMI though, because they were playing at Oakland, right?
Yep. They do have a pretty good VMI.
Huge VMI, and 8.9, basically 9 on the VMI. That is great news for the Astros. If I had to play this one, I mean, the Tyler Ivey thing is obviously we have very, very little data there, but I would probably take the Astros as the road chalk at under -120 if I had to play it. I don't have the model edge on it, but if I did and I had to force a play on this game, that would likely be the one.
Did you see how bad the VMIs are for the Yankee game? I know we're backtracking, but they both have -5. So that I didn't actually notice that this morning when I was running through the numbers, but that's very interesting. You could see both teams having a little difficulty tonight.
Yes, we're going to see that game drop an entire run. I believe it opened at 9, sitting at 8.5, and you're almost to -120 on the under on 8.5. It's going to be essentially a full rundown in that Yankee game.
Yep, I have 8 on my book actually, so it's already there for me.
Already there.
But yeah, I definitely agree with the Houston play. I love the weather down there. It's sort of something you definitely want to try to take advantage of. So when you see Houston, going into their comfort zone, I mean, it's not all that much different. Like VMI matters when you go across state lines, like you fly a couple hours. You're driving from Arlington and Houston. It's the Houston Astros have settled into this environment is what I'm saying. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It's definitely would be an over day for me. I think this one might move too. If you can catch this at 8.5 before first pitch, I like that play. Right now I'm seeing -115 for under 9. So it could get there. Not sure that it will because of the weather. Kyle Gibson is pretty nice. He has been having a great season. So again, I don't know if I'm running to play that Astros line. I do understand it if you're going to force a play, but I respect the heck out of Gibson, and I think I pass on that one.
My only caution there is just on that. We have some people in the chat. Astros team total over. Just watch and see it as early as you possibly can. You can follow certain Twitter accounts from the PR from the team and other things too. You're only going to have 30 seconds to potentially gain those edges, but they do still exist even in this world. As far as the news on whether or not the roof's going to be open, I expect it to be open. I'm projecting it to be open, but it is humid, hot, and overcast enough that they might close it. It's also interesting we can get into this way in the future, but there's got to be some times where the team can potentially want to have it closed with a certain pitcher on the mound. Because it's literally worth half a run at that ballpark. So
why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're the owner of that team and you're the guy who gets to decide whether it's open and closed, there's no presiding board of MLB roof openings. It's what the team wants to do. And if it behooves them and benefits them, why wouldn't you do it? I mean, we saw that the team who's coming to play them used to hit trash cans in order to know when a curveball was coming. You think that anyone gives a shit about if the roof's open? Nah, they're going to take their competitive advantage and run with it. So if they think that, the roof open is going to help them launch off Tyler Ivey and their guy Kyle Gibson's going to keep the ball down. Yeah. A little bit too much of craziness for me to try to cap that one. Again, I also have I feel like I'm getting a little too partial to Kyle Gibson. He's won me a lot of bets. So I'm leaving it alone and looking towards the Detroit-Kansas City game, which is coming up too. That one looks really interesting to me. I have a play on this one on Sportsline. I'm going over. I love the over here. we're going to talk about VMI. I love the VMI in this game. Detroit's coming in with a +10 VMI. The humidity is going to be 94% by around 9 p.m. Eastern. There's going to be a 10-mile-an-hour wind going out towards left. It's 70-degree night. It's just they're going to hit some balls a little far, especially some of the hitters that the Tigers have that might go out to left field. I'm not really scared of the pitching matchup. Mike Minor hasn't been impenetrable, and I mean Jose Urena hasn't been all that great either. So I like the overplay here. Really just a weather factor play for me. 94% humidity is kind of nuts.
Yep. I'll be very interested to see. I'll have to look. I haven't dug too deep for the umpire information on this one, but this game has dropped almost half a run in the market. I find that very interesting. I lean the other way. The only question I'll have once I dig a little deeper, because first game of the series, it's a little harder to get the umpire information.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if we have an extreme under ump on the mound, if that's potentially why we could have seen that drop. Otherwise, I mean, I get it. The Tigers are abysmal against left-handed pitching. Striking out 33% of the, K rate 33% is just absolutely ridiculous. So The question will be, is Minor going to get those called third strikes? Are they going to be ball 3, ball 4? That's going to be critical for what the Tigers can contribute to this over. Feel pretty confident saying the Royals are going to bring you 4.5 to 5. It's just a matter of what can the Tigers get you. I don't hate the play though. It's where I lean for sure. So
it's an interesting play. I mean, for me, my eyes lit up at that 61 air density, the crazy VMI, and the Tigers have kind of been playing a little bit better ball and making decent contact. So I don't think it's just going to take all that much that it might on another night to get to 9. So, I'm with it. I think there's slight edge. Well, I will have to see. I love when we disagree a little bit, but we'll find out. All right, but I'm not taking either side. I really can't. I don't know who's going to win this game. Both these teams have been up and down all season.
Yeah, I think that if you really, I can't even really recommend it at +115. Like if you could find the Royals run line at like +130 because they are the home team, then I think you could fire away there. But I'm not taking -1.5 at +115 here even. So I have no interest in this one. I had interest in the total.
But
I might still if it keeps dropping 8.5, if I can get that closer to even money and not have much juice, then I'll be good. But next game.
Yep. That's going to be interesting. All right. So we're talking about, I believe Chicago and St. Louis are starting a series. Is that accurate? Yes, it is. They're in St. Louis. Chicago is pitching Hendricks. St. Louis has Carlos Martinez going. Totals at 8.5. Money lines -120 for the visiting Cubs. I'm not seeing anything too crazy on the movement. What do you make of it, Mike?
What I make of it is the Cubs are finally healthy-ish again, which sounds weird because they just sent Jason Hayward to the injured list yesterday. But Chris Bryant will be back. Anthony Rizzo's back. Ian Happ is back. And I think that is why we're seeing about 60 to 65% of the action coming in on St. Louis. The line really hasn't budged. If anything, it's moving in the favor of the Chicago Cubs here. So they're going to be healthy for this game. I kind of like them. St. Louis is not super healthy at this point. I think that pitching here is actually going to be a pretty friendly environment overall for although they do have positive VMIs, pretty low rate density there.
But I'm not too scared. It doesn't look like anything like the next game we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But a little foreshadowing for you guys there. But yeah, 66% humidity, 62 ADI, around 3 or 4 VMI. I'm not crazy about anything there. I think that these are both some loaded offenses that could get you there just on talent in a way, right? Like if you have Rizzo, you have Bryant, you have Goldschmidt, you have Arenado, all in the game. Those guys can put in 9 runs between the 4 of them if they're given the opportunity. So I'm not playing it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I want to mention Carlos Martinez because everyone knows how much I love weighted on base average and the expected data. I think that the reason, some people might look at this and wonder why the Cardinals may not be home favorites to Kyle Hendricks. Carlos Martinez, the delta between his actual and expected is just absolutely ridiculous for this point in the season. 282 is his actual weighted on base average. That's going to put him above average. Like that is an above average weighted on base average allowed. Like that's a very good number. But the expected number on that is still 360, which is going to put you meaningfully below average in terms of being a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. Like it's 78 points. And the fact that the expected slugging is still approaching 500 tells me that I really want to believe and buy into that 360 number a hell of a lot more than I want to buy into the 282 number. So I think that's why we're seeing some of that. I'll pull up Hendricks. I mean, Hendricks obviously is very shaky at best many times. His 388 actual, his expected is 357. So we're talking about 2 guys right in line at 360 expected weighted on base average, both right at expected slugging percentage of 500. Pitching matchup is identical despite the fact that the actual results, Carlos Martinez has been 100 points better on weighted on base average.
Well, I guess those are situations where we sort of just sit back and wait and see and find out. And yeah, there might be some slight edge for him. And, you are a big proponent, but personally, those teams, this game is just such a battle for me. This is such an intriguing battle They are in this. I'm not mistaken, right? I'm not going crazy here on Friday. They're both National League Central teams.
Yes.
So this is a big game. We're looking at I don't know if they played this year. That's what I'm going to look at really quickly right now. I'm not seeing anything too recent. Let's see. No, I have. This is the first series of the year for them. Usually teams in their division play upwards of 15, 20 times close to every year. So this is a big game. This probably sets the tone a little bit against the team who they're pretty concerned with in the division. This is going to be a tight division. So it could be a very contrarian underplay, just hearing myself talk about how important this game might be and how some of the pitchers have been as their expected stats. But
I like the contrarian under. It's I will say, it's an absolutely hated rivalry. My girlfriend is from Chicago, likes Cubs a lot, so I'm wearing the Cubs hat. But taking the elevator down to get coffee today, and there was a Cardinals fan and looked at me. He's like, "That's a fucking ugly hat." And I was like, "All right, good morning to you. It must be playing the Cardinals today." So it's a heated rivalry for sure. I do like the contrarian under call. This game screams 3-2, 4-3. So like it.
All right. Well, not sticking with contrarian unders is the Arizona-Colorado game. We see that the line is currently at -125 to take 11 on the consensus. Let me tell you, that is what I expected this morning. The line opened. We've seen about 15 cents of movement. I jumped on it early. This is the highest VMI number I've ever seen as a combination. Both teams at +21, the air density 43. There is a 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing out of Coors today.
Ridiculous.
Take the over. Take it. Just take it. Seriously. I hesitate to use the L word, but it might very well be a lock. And you're probably going to see 11.5 within the next hour and a half. So, if you're going to get that push at 11, you're going to hope for 12. I put in my write-up that I wouldn't be surprised at 15. Take the over. Come on.
Yep. I do not hate it at all. I love it.
Rank off Marquez in this. Nope. There's a reason it's moving. and it's going to be just a crazy. The ball's not going to break. The ball's not going to break in this weather.
All right.
And
if this game goes under, I will send a few mean tweets because I just put 47 units on this one, and
wow,
you know,
47 units. No, I know you're joking. I only have a 1 unit play on it. Trust me, it takes all of my restraint when you see something like this to be like, oh, do I put more? And when it hits and you're like, oh, I should have put more. But stay disciplined, guys. You won't regret it in case I am wrong. So it's worth it to stay uniform. And now if you were like, oh, it sounds like you have a huge edge, I'm going to do 1.2, fine. Okay, that probably makes a lot of sense. But I wouldn't go over 1.5. I wouldn't go over even 1.3. Yep. So we'll see. Oh, it just moved on action. There you go, 11.5. I hope you got it. But all right, Oakland, LA also has a crazy wind. I don't know if you saw that, Mike. We also have 15-mile-an-hour wind blowing out of Angel Stadium today. The VMI numbers aren't nearly as nuts. Jose Quintana is pitching for the A's, who does have an 8.53 ERA, but I'm not really playing much on this. I think this might be contrarian under. Anything you're seeing on the movement of this one, there really hasn't been too much.
There's been a little movement. I don't know how long that line was available, but it did look like it flipped. Angels open plus 110. They are now minus 110. So it's, any sense of movement on this one. Angels tracked as the Sharks. It actually appears to be a very sharp side on the Angels. We're still tracking 70% of the action and money on the A's, despite 20 cents in favor of the Angels. So I would say that's one of the sharper plays of the day. I think that it makes sense. However, I'm always a little skeptical of Jose Quintana. I don't want to call him a fraud, but at times he's a guy that I'm almost always interested in his mediocre strikeout prop, but there's also a damn good chance this guy's going to have that 4-run inning that just totally blows everything up. He is notorious for doing that. The A's have a number of players that hit left-handed pitching well. Incredibly well. In fact, I think they're probably going to have 8 of 9 right-handed hitters in the lineup. So that's obviously a little concerning for me. I think that this is truly all about the starting pitcher for the Oakland A's, and the sample size that we have. I think that that's what people are betting on here.
Yep, I agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's just hard for someone to walk in on his second start and keep a 1.8 ERA when you have the home run leader walking up at bat. And it's not like the rest of their lineup can't hit. And I don't think it's a terrible hitting environment today. So, but yeah. I think, it's not really, there's nothing really on the bone there for me. I've put a couple plays out. I actually have one more in our next game here. It's a big day for me. So I'm definitely not forcing anything because I do have a couple out there. Yep. We have Trevor Bauer taking the mound against the Giants. I am on the under. Giants scored how many runs yesterday? 19?
Yep.
It's a good bet to say that they don't come out and do that again, and that, they swung the bat a lot and they ran the bases a lot and then they traveled. I think, and then they got to face Trevor Bauer. So it's not like they're just coming out of all that and just facing Jose Quintana. They're facing Trevor Bauer. So this could be a 4-0 game for the Dodgers to me. This could be a 2-1 game for the Giants to me. But an offensive explosion, I think, would probably have to come out of LA. So probably a good San Francisco team total under bet, honestly.
That's where I would lean personally. If I had to play on the game, it would be a team total under. I think that while I'm not incredibly terrified of this Dodgers lineup, I think that the most likely scenario that pushes this game over is just one of the bad, we see it a couple times a year. One of the really bad Alex Wood starts gives up those 4 to 5 runs early, ends up being a 6-2 Dodgers win. That is obviously this is the dumbest comment I've ever made, but that's within the range of outcomes, obviously. But I think that that's really the only scenario here. I think that if this game goes over, it should be from Dodgers plating 5+ runs, likely in the first 3 innings of the game. So
I agree. If it would be on Wood not being able to settle in, especially early, but I don't know if they're going to have that problem being at home. I read a pretty interesting article yesterday about why the top or the bottom of the first can be where like a run explosion happens more likely than the top of the first. And I think someone was maybe trying to make a take that it has to do with how a pitcher settles in, and that the away pitcher has to sit and wait, and the starting pitcher for the home team gets to go right out there and right after his warm-ups and start pitching. So, there's always talked about on broadcasts, the pitcher's sitting there for a while and he's, getting ready to work. And sometimes you want like quick innings so that like you can just get your pitcher back out there or not take forever. You'll even hear an announcer be like, oh, they've scored 7 runs. How's the pitcher going to do? Because he's been sitting there while they bat through the order. So I think there's an interesting take. I'm not really putting my weight behind it, but I do think there's some interesting stats there for the bottom of the first inning.
Yep. No, I think they're interesting. I'm not putting a lot into it. Edward Gale, Twitter or YouTube commenter. My marriage now depends on the Rockies Diamondbacks going over.
Well,
so
that's
added pressure for you.
Yeah. Well, look, your marriage is built on something that I think probably might go pretty safely. You can't say that for some people, man. I don't know. It's better than putting your marriage on the under today. That's for sure. And that's how we make our bets. It's not that it's necessarily it has to hit or else. It's more or less that like we definitely think we have an edge. So I think I have an edge on your marriage being fine at the end of the day. But we got one more game here. We got Seattle versus San Diego. A little bit of movement here. People definitely like playing the Padres. They're a top team. Mariners are one of the teams people know hit. So you're probably not going to beat the Padres. And any take here, Mike?
I don't have a massive take on it other than Paddock is someone that I've been very bullish on long term and have been for quite some time. So I like him. I don't have any play on the game, but if you want to play the Padres home money line, you're probably, let's see where you can grab that right now. You get -110. I was thinking you might get it at -105 or even money still, but I mean that's probably the play. Like it definitely, like if I had to look at it, I would say this is another one of the 3-0 or 3-1 Padres wins, but not going to shock me at all if this Padres lineup also puts up 6 runs and screws every angle of the bet other than that run line. So
I agree. As Mr. Josh Shocks asks in the chat, is 11.5 the number I have for the Rockies? No, it just hit 11.5 while we were talking about it. I did get it at 11 this morning. I don't hate 11.5, but again, as we have said, you're inviting a new loss condition by going up there. You won't win at 11, so I would probably hesitate a little bit at 11.5. But no, I really do think this could go well over that. This could be one of those days with that 20-mile wind blowing out. But I'll let you make that choice yourself. But yeah, I'd maybe hope to see maybe some buyback. Maybe people hit the under and you can get 11 again. But that would kind of surprise me. But all right, yeah, I don't have a play on San Diego either. I don't. Again, my thing is that Mariners just got swept by the Tigers, man, and now they're going on the road to San Diego. When you sit there and say, oh, they should never win now, that's exactly when they win. When I catch myself being like, no way the Mariners win, that is exactly when I don't take a bet. I prefer to not have that guttural reaction when I'm betting. I prefer to go with things that don't have so much feeling. I think that's why my record has been the best on run lines, because you have to take a much more calculated approach to a run line than you do the so I'm just laughing at the YOLO here in the chat. No, I think this is an interesting one, and I wouldn't. I'm gonna probably put San Diego in our donkey of the day right now, which I'll give out at this point. But wouldn't totally shock me. Wouldn't totally shock me if they were the ones who ruin it. So let's get to what you all obviously are waiting for here. The easy ones for the donkey parlay are going to be Washington minus 200 on the money line. You're definitely going to put the Padres minus 225 on the money line in there. And then I think what you could probably do will also put Tampa Bay today and
Braves. Were you doing minus 190 on the Atlanta Braves?
We'll do Braves. All right, so there it is. We have Atlanta, we have Tampa, we have Padres, and we're gonna go with what was that last one? I lose myself.
We got Washington Nationals, Atlanta Braves, San Diego Padres, Tampa Bay Rays. All right. Plus 459 on William Hill.
All right, I'm gonna put a third of a unit on it today. I really like it. I've been up all week. I have throw the over 11 in. Sure, you got it. I'll put it. And Mike, you have a home run guy today. What are you liking?
Over 11. If you throw that in, that brings it up to 924 on William Hill. By the way,
donkey of the day. Let's do it.
Donkey of the day. Okay. Well, home run of the day. Since I can't take the low hanging fruit, and that's going to be in Colorado, right? I can't do that. That's cheating, right? So, home run of the day for me, I'm going to say Jose Ramirez.
I like it. I definitely think it has a chance. So, look, it's going to be an interesting one. We have a lot of late action. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to watch it all because we have a great NBA game tonight. My eyes are going to be glued. It's NBA playoffs. It's a great one. I was poking a little fun on Twitter right before the show started. It's like, no team where 80% of the bets have been on it on the spread have ever covered in the playoffs. And I just, you know what? I'm not going to call this the playoffs just yet. This is the play-in. So this is a different beast. We have yet to see an upset. And I just don't think you keep up with the Lakers and then get blown out and then don't hand it to the Grizzlies. Steph has the experience. Kerr has the experience. Draymond was able to keep Anthony Davis at bay, and they have LeBron on the court. So Jonas Valanciunas probably going to do his thing, but I don't see the rest of that offense doing enough to beat Steph.
Yep. I tend to agree with you on that one as well. I liked it at minus 3.5. I'm not sure where it's at now. I'm sure it's moved.
Yeah, I think it was at 4.5, right?
Yeah, 4.5 and minus 115 on William Hill. That thing's going to close minus 5 Warriors.
Yep. I totally agree. All right, so Donkey of the Day is always found on my Action app, which you can find through the link in my Twitter bio, blah, blah, blah. Really quickly, little housekeeping. We are not here tomorrow. We will, though, be back for a earlier show around 11 a.m. on Sunday because we have a big early slate on Sunday, and we're going to get you guys some coverage on that day as well.
Yep, that is it. But we'll obviously tune into the early edge tomorrow, and then we'll be active on Twitter tomorrow as well. Just not going to have the ability to do the show. But thanks for tuning in. Remember, hit the subscribe button above so you know when we go live, because that Sunday show will be earlier. Not exactly sure when we go live, but it will be a different time than our normally scheduled. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Peace.